Yes, interesting, Sirif. You have talked about very important things. But now, I want to take us back to what is happening recently in the sub-region. A coup happened in Guinea. The people of, let me say, the Guineans were in support of the military. A coup happened in Mali. Malians were in support of the military. A coup happened in Burkina Faso. The people were in support of it. Recently in Niger or Niger, and the people are in support of it. Then if the people are in support of the military, what do you think that signifies, Musa? What do you think that signifies?
Number one, what it signifies is that it means our democratically elected leaders are not competent, they are not capable, they cannot do it, and the military are the right people to do the job. And that is why the military should, and they have to take over and make sure that they do the doable and do what is expected of the democratically elected presidents.
You have something, right?
I have something to say.
Okay.
Musa's problem, you've said clearly that you think one of the main reasons, in fact, I think to you the main reason why the men in uniform do a coup d'etat is because of overstaying power. Your problem is not overstay, your problem is bad governance. Because if your problem is overstay, you will have talked about Jammeh's 22 years in power. You will have talked about Gaddafi's 49 years in power. You will have talked about Paul Kagame's more than 25 years in power. All these people have overstayed in power, but why you never talked about that? And you said individuals that come to power through the barrel of the gun, you subscribe to Jammeh and Gaddafi, but they overstayed, right? So it's not overstay, it's bad governance instead. So if it is also, to me it's not about overstay, because I hardly see people talk about Paul Kagame leaving power. And he has been in power for more than, if not 25, more than 25 years in power. But we never talked about that. So to me, regardless of whatever happens, let us not give an opportunity to the military to intervene. They are not the right alternative. And then Adam has talked about the citizenry subscribing to military intervention. When any country that you go to, the moment the military have an opportunity to come to power, the first thing they instill in the minds of the people is fear. Trust me, it's going to be extremely difficult for the military to come to power and you think people will come and oppose it when they have the might of the gun in their hands. It's going to be extremely difficult because the military, the moment you oppose their leadership, the best thing that they do is to silence you. And then that fear will make you either to join and celebrate they are coming to power or you be silent. So it does not mean that all those countries where you see people celebrating coup d'etats, and then you cannot use that also as a measurement to say majority of the citizens, because you've not carried out anything to indicate that these are the majority of the citizens that are subscribing to it. You have a lot of them that are silent, and then they know the consequences of military intervention, but they can't come out and speak because they know that the military does not respect the language of the Constitution, and if they speak against it, they will face a severe punishment.
Sirif, what is your take?
Yeah, exactly. As you alluded earlier on, when military try to intervene, you tend to see the citizens try to subscribe to it. But later on, you observe that they will be crying again because of the military staying in power. Example, Guinea-Conakry. When the current president, Mamadi Doumbouya, tried to overthrow Alpha Condé, what happened was, they, as my boss rightly put it, they tried to instill that fear mood into the citizens to the extent that asking them if you do not go out and then celebrate with the general public, showing that you are in support of us, we are going to silence you. So as a result, they have no other option other than to come out and then celebrate. But then, currently staying in power, he is supposed to organize an election whereby they would have their election and then the citizens would elect their individual democratically. But then he failed to do that.
But then you have mentioned something really critical here. How factual is that he forced people to come out and celebrate?
It is factual because you know that it is beyond the way you might think it. Because imagine an individual who is able to plan or make his own plans in order to overthrow a government in office is capable of doing anything possible in order to get the people out, because they know very well that if the peoples are not out in the streets to celebrate with them, it signifies that the population is not in support of them. And if that happens, it is a something that is not giving them a good image. So as a result, they will do anything possible.
Interesting. But now, what is the common saying that, especially most Afro, or let's say Pan-Africanists would say, most of the presidents in Africa are puppets to the West and America, the United States. So that is, maybe we can say, one of the reasons these coup d'etats are happening recently. So how do we justify that?
Yeah.
What is your take on that, Musa?
Yeah, in fact, that is also another reason why the military usually overthrow democratically elected governments. But first, I would like to go to what Biran has said, Honorable Salah. He said it is not, I don't know, something like overstay in power or bad governance. What I want to put across here is it is overstay in power that gives birth to bad governance. Had it been they did not stay long in power, then obviously they would not be able to have bad governance, or there would be no bad governance. It is very rare today, if you go to these, Western countries like America, to have dictators in those countries. Why? Because there is term limit. At least any leader that comes to power, you should rule for a period of 10 years and then leave office. But then if you are not allowed to have a term limit, then obviously there will be bad governance, because, as I have said earlier on, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. The more you stay, the more powerful you become. And the more powerful you become, then that's how you'll be able to violate the fundamental human rights of the people. Adama, what you have just brought forward, that is them being puppets, that is something that is very factual. And that is why, as we speak today, in Niger today, most of the people will say the military, in fact, are very angry to overthrow the government for the fact that the government is at some point afraid of France. Niger is more of like a country that is not independent, I can say, or semi-independent. They are not very independent.
Most of the Francophone countries.
Very well, because France is controlling them. Okay, and in fact, France accessed the nuclear fuel from Niger. And they use this nuclear fuel.
The uranium.
Exactly. They use this nuclear fuel in order to generate electricity. And at some point, they have to sell this electricity to the people of Niger at a very, high cost.
Thank you, Musa. It's very interesting. I would like Biran to come over here. Biran, we realize that Africa has one of the most, it is one of the continents that have most natural resources. Let's take an example of most of this country that, coup d'etats happen. Example, Niger, they have what we call a uranium. But if you come to look at it, they are one of the poorest countries in the world. Why is that happening?
Yeah, so I think, Musa, you misunderstood when I talked about overstay. Because you said overstay is your problem. But when you were giving examples of leaders that came to power through the barrel of the gun, you cited Jammeh and Gaddafi. So I'm asking, is it that those individuals did not overstay?
They overstay.
But why you never talked about that?
But their overstay is positive.
So now, meaning at some point, overstay could be positive. So the problem mainly should not be centered on overstay, it's bad governance still. Because even if an individual stays for 10 years, the person might do bad, like Barrow. Some individuals might say he's not delivering, but he has not stayed up to Jammeh's level.
Okay.
And let's move forward to the issue of natural resources.
Being puppets, leaders being puppets.
Exactly, leaders being puppets.
Issues of these natural resources, yeah.
So basically, me opposing military intervention do not mean I am saying those that are elected into office, all of them delivers. We have some, it's a global world too. What people fail to understand is that we cannot delink ourselves from Europe like that. That cannot work. It's a global war, because whatever happens in Europe at some point might affect Africa, and some things might happen in Africa that will affect Europe too.
But whatever something you own, I believe you should benefit from it.
That is leadership problem.
Then why don't you think military is not going to intervene?
But if the military intervene, are they going to solve that problem?
Of course, that's their most of them. That's their main motive.
What are they solving?
No. I'm not here to answer the question. What I'm trying to say is,
so maybe
if the people are not enjoying their resources, then there is a problem.
So let's say Nigeria, as an example, has a lot of resources, but most of its leaders came to power through the barrel of the gun. So they've not delivered, they've not utilized that resources in order to propel Nigeria forward. So now you cannot say it's only the civilian governments that act like puppets. We've seen, of course, Ruto. I am too sure that a lot of us here will subscribe to his leadership, but he came to power through the conscience of the people. So to me, military is not the option. We have many options that we can use through our voters card. A clear example is 2021 in the Gambia here. I know, of course, for a fact that Halifa will have delivered. He will have helped us to make sure that the resources that we own is used for the betterment or to better the lives of the Gambians.
But how sure are you that he's going to deliver?
Because I've followed him, I've read his policies, I've seen his programs. That is what makes you to believe. If you read the policies, you believe that they are doable, they are not outdated, they can work, then you vote for an individual. But even if I vote, which I did, I vote for Halib and he did not deliver, I have another 5 years to remove him.
Yeah.
I just have to be patient. But because you can tell me, like, let's say Barrow is not delivering. Some individuals will still have an opposing view that Barrow is delivering, and who knows, even if we go to the polls tomorrow, people will still vote for him. Majority says yes, we are okay with him. We go. That is democracy. But the military is not trained to take the barrel of the gun and remove leaders. They've been to powers in many countries and they've in fact looted. We've seen leaders like Idi Amin as an example. He has not delivered. It's not about coming and talking against Europeans always, like you take platforms and talk against Europe, blah, blah. Even I can do that. I can be taking platforms to be opposing Europeans and so on. But if you are the one who is serving as the leader, it's not about only talking. It's about doing what is best for your country by making sure that if we are going to have any multilateral or bilateral agreement with any country, let the interest of your country come first before the interest of the other people.
Sirif, what is your take?
Yeah, exactly the same issue. Because what happened is, it's true that we cannot withstand ourselves from the Europeans. And the simple reason is that happened as a result of the colonial relationships and issues like that. And for the fact that they are bigger than us in the sense that their economy is far better than ours. So as a result,
but one could argue that you're talking about their economy being bigger than us is because they are looting from us.
Yeah, that's it. But again,
then why not we try and maintain those resources? We benefit first before sharing with others.
I am not saying that when the military comes into power, they are not going to deliver to expectation, or when they comes to power, they will not deliver to expectation.
But because most of the times, they are not puppets to the Europeans.
But
Birana has given an example of Idi Amin. You know what Idi Amin did to the whites. You know what he did to the whites.
But look at the condition.
No, but you know what he did to the whites.
That's why I'm saying.
You know what Gaddafi did. You know what Jammeh did.
But look at the condition of the Gambia. But you don't talk. It's not about talking only.
Yes.
All of us can do that. We can all be talking.
But are you trying to say they did not deliver?
No. Every leader that you see, even Barrow delivered. The debate has to be whether the good supersedes or the bad.
So, Sirif, what are you trying to say? That they are good. I mean, they are bad supersedes. They are good or what?
Most of the militaries, when they come, they are bad will supersede the good.
What is your evidence?
What is my evidence? Yeah. Let's take a look at the current president of Guinea-Conakry, example. That is Mamadi Doumbouya. Ever since when he came, look at the economy, how the Guinean economy is trying to grow compared to before he comes. So it seems like if you observe it thoroughly, you will come to realize that his coming to power has not contributed to the development of the nation, but instead it has contributed to the backbonings of the nation. And in fact, it is a threat to peace and stability.
How?
It is a threat to peace and stability because you see people coming out, trying to voice it out, that they are not happy with it. He needs to come on board and then allow the civilians to come. In fact, why is it that when militaries comes into power, they always find it difficult in order to organize elections for the civilians to come on board? If it is true that they are patriotic enough, that they love the nation, or they remove the previous government because of bad governance, what they need to do, after 6 months, let them organize elections, then the citizens go in for to vote in for the right party. But why is it that whenever they come, they will not want to do that?
Yes, interesting.
Yeah, he has a point. And then I think this question will surely be answered. And in fact, the question has been answered. The time that Jammeh overthrew the Sarauda Karabajawar's regime, we have seen that there was a transition from 1995 to 1996. Then there was an election. And in this election, Jammeh ends up winning. And what you were saying was what had exactly happened. So, yeah, they can do that. So with regard what Biran has said, that is, military men, usually their bad side supersedes the good side. Let's go to Muammar Gaddafi again in Libya. I mean, Gaddafi was able to work very hard towards making sure that, I mean, the Libyans are at least able to have bank accounts. And then, I mean, certain amount of money was being deposited in their accounts. And that is a great development towards, I mean, Libya. And also, Gaddafi is a man whom you know that he sees Africa first. I mean, he's from the military, remember. He sees Africa, and most of these military men sees Africa first, like Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso will usually say, it is the end, we should have our total independence now. Gaddafi was able to make sure that, I mean, certain parts of Libya, you know, they were unable to have access to clean and accessible, I mean, water, were able to have it. And also Gaddafi was able to make sure that he came up with the initiative of making the gold dinar. That is the currency that will be used by, I mean, all Africans. So these are all great achievements that they've made.
Musa, it's also very interesting to note this. Colonel Mamadou Doumbouya and also the coup leader for, I don't know, Burkina Faso or one of these countries that currently had coups. I came to realize that most of these people were trained by the US military. Don't you think that is a bit of threat to Western influence in the way they rule during their time in office? As someone supporting the military intervention in politics?
Well, it is not a threat. It is not a threat.
But they have been trained by these people.
Them being trained would help them to have a lot of evidence or secrets about how these people operate.
Do you know what they are trained for?
Do you know
what they are trained for? I think it's a very important question.
They are obviously
what
trained.
Are they trained for?
What are military men trained for? They are obviously trained to protect their country and also to be able to, I mean, do well when they go for, I mean, wars outside the country.
So you fail to understand one thing. Do you know that France played a key role in sponsoring many military coup d'etats in Africa?
Yeah, in fact, France is among the countries that are assisting most of these jihadists and terrorists.
So if you have issues with the West meddling into our political affairs or trying to exploit us economically, if you subscribe to coups, be expecting more coups, because the West will continue to sponsor many military coups.